Good morning. We start our service today with our chalice lighting. As chalices are lit in our brother and sister congregations throughout the world. As in a clear dawn, spreading from the east, with a glow of hidden fire, the light comes, older than the earth, but new every morning. Good morning. Good morning and welcome. Possibly good evening, possibly good afternoon, depends when and where you are. We gather today as three congregations. We gather as Dover, we gather as Tenterton, we gather as Sevenoaks, which is where we are right now. Possibly with Chatham and Maidstone too, we gather not physically, but in community nonetheless. The surge of COVID-19 has forced us to take stock of how we gather, of our priorities to keep each other safe and each other well, but also to build new ways to connect, to keep us together. This is perhaps a shorter service than usual, but I hope you'll find it of value and as a helpful reflection for your week ahead. I welcome you all to this service, whoever you may be, wherever you may be, whether on Sunday or whenever you have found the time to stop and to reflect, to be still, to be open, to be here. Let us join together now in a time of prayer. Let silence be placed around us, like a mantle. Let us enter into it as though through a small secret door, stooping, to emerge into an acre of peace where stillness reigns and the mystery is ever present. Eternal Spirit, help us to descend into the depths of our being, below our conscious and subconscious life, until we discover our real selves, that which is given to each of us alone, the divine likeness in which we are each made and into which we are to grow, the place where you commune with us, the spring from which all our lives arise. Eternal Spirit, Mother, Father, ever present if only we have eyes to see. We stand in awe in the presence of the universe. In its proper time, may the mystery unfurl before us. Though fettered by our material desires, may the depths of the Spirit uphold and guide us. May the great gifts of the earth sustain us. May the universe forgive our faults and our follies, and may we in equal measure be forgiven. May we ever turn our eyes toward the light, to dispel the darkness which would engulf us. We give thanks for the bounty of the universe, which abounds with power and glory beyond our greatest imaginings. Eternal Spirit, may we be led from death to life, from falsehood to truth. May we be led from despair to hope, from fear to trust. May we be led from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Amen. Our first reading today is by retired Unitarian minister, the Reverend Yopi Boki. This is a piece called Sometimes. Sometimes we are so filled with ourselves that we only see ourselves and not the person next to us or opposite us. May we enlarge our souls and make room for others. Sometimes we no longer hope for each other or for ourselves or for the future. Sometimes we ignore each other, speak only words of pain and separation. May we be given new words, words of peace, words which create community, words which bring healing and blessing and belief in the future. May we open our doors and invite others in, feeling safe in spite of our vulnerability. May we learn to live with each other and for each other. The words of Yopi Boki. Our second reading today is by Louise Rogers, a Unitarian activist who may be known to some of you. This is a piece entitled Hands. Let us look at our hands and know that they are vital to many of our connections. Hands can be used to wave, to hold, one hand in another, a loved one or an acquaintance, or in different times, perhaps a complete stranger touched with a handshake. Hands can be used to stroke, to speak in sign language, to write, to type, to click on the send buttons for emails, to press telephone keypads, to hold on too tightly when we don't want to let go of something or someone. As we look at our hands, and I invite you to do so now, let us touch one hand with the other. Feel each bone, each bump, the soft surfaces and the hard. See the veins and the hairs, the creases and the wrinkles, the lines and the fingerprints. let us get to know our hands, appreciate the feeling of touching and of being touched. Sit with the possibility of connection. Our hands are like a chapter in our life. They allude to how old we are. A scar may remind us of an event long ago. A cut may remind us of an event more recent. Long fingernails may mean we play the guitar. Short fingernails, the piano. Our palm lines tell us, or may tell us, how long we will live, or they may instead remind us that we don't believe in such things. Our fingers may wear rings as symbols of love, or of belonging, or of personality. Ingrained earth may demonstrate our love and our connection to the earth. A bruised thumb may be a reminder of a picture that eventually got hung on the wall. Let us take a moment to think about our hands and what they are capable of. Let us think about the connections they make. Think of what they are telling us about our lives. Let us savour the possibilities for connectedness. And let us smile with gratitude. The words of Louise Rogers. Let us join together now for a time of stillness and prayer and reflection. As we settle our bodies, settling into our chairs, perhaps closing our eyes, focusing on our breath. I shall read some words by Sarah Tinker. Then we shall come together in stillness and silence together. I shall break that silence with a singing bowl as we bring ourselves back. As we settle our bodies, focusing on our breath. As we call on the divine spirit of life and love to be with us here today, we need these times of prayer and reflection, even when many of us are unsure who or what we are praying to. And for some of us, the word prayer itself has lost its meaning and its power. Yet still we sit quietly and turn our attention inwards and focus on our thoughts. And what we focus upon is different for each of us, for we are unique beings, and each of us has our own unique sense of that which we hold to be divine. Yet we share a common humanity, and it is this common humanity that brings us our concerns and anxieties, our hopes and our fears, our gratitude and our joy. For this is what it is to be human. We are for others, both those close to us and those whose lives we hear of only in the news. We delight in the natural world with its rich gifts for our senses. The sounds, sights, smells, tastes, the very touch of it all. We have an idea that we can be greater than we often are, that there is perhaps something of the divine in each and every one of us. We sense mysteries beyond our comprehension as we look at the stars or gaze upon a flower. As we enter a time of shared silence together now, may we be open to the possibility of divinity within and beyond us, and hear its whispered messages to us. May the peace and the stillness of this time and this place stay with us and strengthen us for the task of living our lives, now and always. I feel quite strange delivering this sermon. Let's not pretend that you're listening to a service being held in a full meeting house, where there are 30 living, breathing congregants just out of sight. You're not. We are instead taking extraordinary measures to try to reduce the risk of COVID-19, coronavirus, being passed on to one of you, or perhaps from one of you. This wasn't an easy decision, and committees in all three congregations wrestled with the evidence and the information, some changing their approach over the week as new information emerged. And here we are, not in the same place physically, but instead sharing the same space in our hearts and in our minds. Now, I'm delivering this sermon from Sevenoaks, where today, if today is Sunday, we've also had to cancel the children's chapel, which is a great shame. Because when the children, the youth, the young adults, when they gather, the words they usually use for the lighting of their chalice are very, very simple. This is what they say when they light their chalice. We light this chalice to celebrate being Unitarians. This is the home of the open mind. This is the home of the helping hands. And this is the home of the loving heart. And all of this is accompanied by actions to help us all remember the importance and the purpose of our presence here. And these are the actions. This is the home of the open mind. This is the home of the helping hands. And this is the home of the loving heart. And for the three congregations gathered around the county today, it is the second of these I would like us to focus on. Not least because we've heard about very little else in recent weeks. We've heard about washing, of sanitising, of scrubbing, and of drying our hands. This is the home of the helping hands. Now, helping hands suggests doing. Now, whilst Unitarians are proud, and rightly proud, of their commitment to rational thought, proud of their willingness to read and engage with different ideas and approaches to religion and spirituality, however, I think this is only part of the story. Our calling, as human beings in this great interconnected world of ours, is surely not simply to think, to ponder, to assess in an intellectual way. We're also called to do. We're called to make a positive contribution to this wonderful world we live in, to use our helping hands. Now, helping hands can, of course, work in so many different ways. We've all known the helping hands of those that believe they know better than us. We all have stories of those who have helped us into a worse position from that from which we started. Not necessarily deliberately, but certainly without due and considerate thought. But sometimes it is the less obvious, less showy and grandiose things that will really matter. A good deed, an action of love to one in need, is something that we are, I believe, called to by God, or whatever name you might wish to give to that intangible something in which we are all bound. Now, good deeds are, of course, inextricably bound into religious aims and intents too. In the Bible, for example, in the words of Matthew, to be precise, there is a story that suggests that when an individual gives food to the hungry, gives water to the thirsty, visits the sick, or those in prison, then that action is being done to God, for God, to the divine, to the greater humanity, to that which connects. Because for me, with a view that God is an indescribable something, a formless form that provides the source and inspiration of love and life, and is present within each and every one of us, then the notion that an act of kindness towards an individual becomes, for me, an action of kindness towards all humanity. By simply living a life of love towards others, we're benefiting humankind in so many different ways. Ourself, the community within which we live, the congregations with whom we worship, our fellow congregations, with those we are helping, inside and outside of our communities, with those we are helping, we are hoping in the help we are, with those we see hope in the help we are providing to others. Now, what we're all trying to do today, by meeting and worshipping in this quite unusual way, supporting the health and well-being of each other, is touching the lives of our fellow human beings. Despite the fact we're not here, I'm the only one that's here, we're all together being part of this. We're helping each other feel less isolated. And ultimately, even though we're all in separate places, we are keeping our congregations vibrant and present. And by keeping congregations vibrant and present, we're continuing to support all those who live by deeds rather than creeds. Those who seek to make this broken world whole. Now this, of course, this virtual congregation, is a temporary arrangement. We'll be able to gather in our meeting houses and churches again, in relative terms, very, very soon. But that doesn't matter. Because each time we gather, in our hearts and in our minds, and with others in some way, we are answering that inner call to the divine. We are answering that still small voice that tells us to come together and to help and to serve others in the world. Now, one of my favourite books from the Bible, see, you get 2 quotes this time. One of my favourite books from the Bible is the book of James. And within it is a quote that provides a reminder of our needs to add deeds to our faith. And I'm going to quote it because it's a fantastic statement. And those of you that have been here before, and those of you at Tenterton and at Dover, will have heard me say this one many, many times because I think it's fantastic. It's also rockstar Alice Cooper's favourite piece of prose, and in my book, that makes it worth reading. So in the letter of James, in the New Testament, James asks, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you have faith but you do not have works? If a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm, eat your fill,' and yet does nothing to supply their bodily needs, what is the good of that? Faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead." Now, I firmly believe that from whichever religious path you come, or from no religious path at all, the sentiment in James's letter must be a guide for us all. Our faith in life, our faith in humanity, our faith in the possibility of a better world can only be realised through works and through deeds. We are part of this broken society, and we are part of the solution too. Now, over the coming weeks and months, however long coronavirus is going to last us, I ask each of us to take time to think about how we can help others. To take time to reflect on making phone calls to those that we know are isolated or isolating. To check whether someone needs shopping done, or children cared for, or an errand run, or a connection made in some way. I'm not suggesting you put yourselves at risk of infection, but working with the advice and the guidelines and weighing it up yourself. How do we help each other through this time? Together, we can make a difference. Now, we are Kent Unitarians. We are Sevenoaks, we are Tenterton, we are Dover, we are many others. We're supporting our fellow congregations and those within them. We're supporting ourselves, we're supporting our communities. It is important. We are Unitarians. And don't forget that this is the home of the open mind and the home of the loving heart. But before you head out, after watching this, remember to wash the home of the helping hands. And now some closing words. Spirit of life, we give thanks for your presence, for light and for love, for night and for change. Our worship is over, but our service continues. As we leave this time together, this virtual congregation, may there be peace amongst us all, now and forever. Amen.